Hugh, it's Ryan. Hey, I'm really excited about Travis Boak being on the show today. He's an amazing player, plays for Port Adelaide, obviously, as you know. But it reminded me, and I don't think I've ever spoken to you about this, I don't think we've ever discussed this, but I used to play footy myself. I played for years. Yeah, it's weird now that I think about it that we've never discussed this. But yeah, I played full forward on a couple of teams and kicked a bunch of goals. I kicked something like 1,360 goals or something like that. Yeah, so yeah, certainly wasn't a bad player, but won the Brownlow in '87 and yeah, won the Coleman Medal 4 times, and I think like All Australian 5 times or something like that. So yeah, no, it was some really good times, and it just reminded me of that. Oh, hang on. Shit, no, sorry, I'm thinking of Tony Lockett. Plugger, damn it. Yeah, I always get myself mixed up with Plugger, so my bad. Scratch that. This is me, Ryan, not Tony Lockett. Ryan Shelton from the podcast.
To call back, press 2. To replay message, press 1. To reply.
We're all imperfect, and on this podcast, I'll be chatting with a variety of interesting people who are willing to make themselves vulnerable by sharing their own struggles and imperfections.
Then we'll discuss the invaluable takeaways we can all apply to our own imperfect lives.
I'm Hugh Van Kylenberg from the Resilience Project.
And I'm Ryan Shelton from my mum. And this is The Imperfects. Well, welcome back to The Imperfects.
Original format
Episode, that's right, with the three of us in here. It's Travis Boak today. Travis Boak, footy player.
Very, very, very handsome.
Is he?
Oh,
I guess
Josh saw him on Zoom.
I also there's a moment in the interview where he mentions his underwear company. I thought, I'll have a look what the undies are like, and I googled his underwear company, and the first photo is him in underwear, spreading his arms, looking like an Adonis.
Josh bought 100 pairs.
We'll talk about him in a second. I have hung out with him a bit, and
all right,
he's one of those.
All right, I know footy players too, mate.
No, I only said it to just. There's been a couple of times I've been hanging out with him, and I've just got so distracted by how good looking he is. It's hard to concentrate. Anyway,
yeah, did you ever get distracted
all the time?
Looking at me, yeah,
all the time.
Oh, then say so. Feel free to then just say so if that's how you feel. If that's how you feel, honestly.
So have you? What have you guys got? As in, sorry.
What have you got? Well, just get the agenda for the meeting out.
No, but I know we always...
Hugh, we never have anything. Like, who do you think we are? No, actually there is something.
Yeah, okay, good.
And you know there is. So this, in the last couple of weeks, we got sent something. And we don't get sent stuff much. Like, we're a pretty young podcast.
Yeah.
We're not really... I remember when I used to do, like, commercial radio, you get sent stuff all the time. Most of it, shit. But that's
because they know you on commercial radio you can plug it and promote.
You talk it, yeah, exactly.
It's not really our thing, yeah.
So, but in this instance, we got sent something very special, and I wanted to talk about it. For those of you who have heard the episode with James Victori, which we did a couple of months ago, maybe, we talked about the idea. Or Hugh, you told a story about letting a guy in traffic, and he was so excited that he put his arm out the car and just like punched the air like, yes!
It looked like he'd kicked a goal.
He was so happy.
Football. Yeah. And I just got so excited by it, and I didn't know I wanted to give him the same level of enthusiasm back, and all I could think to do was to replicate his manoeuvre. So I started pumping my fist.
Yeah. And we called it an arm party. That's like
you called it an arm party.
Did we? Oh,
yes.
I can't remember who said it. If I said it, then great. That's good to have on record. Cool. So I said, God, it's embarrassing. I said it's an arm party, and then we talked about maybe having stickers.
Yeah, we thought stickers on the car would be great. Like if you drove past another person, there was a sticker on their car saying, "I'm up for an arm party."
Yeah.
you knew that they were a good citizen who, if they need to get in front of you in traffic, no problems.
Yeah. They're open to letting people in.
Totally.
Yeah.
They're good people is what they're trying to say.
They're great
I'm a nice person.
Yeah. Hugh, you're a legend.
Yeah.
So we have been kind of like in the background looking into and working on some sort of arm party sticker.
Josh has done some designs.
Yeah, we're sort of it's happening. We do want to do it, but someone has absolutely beaten us to the punch. Beaten us to the party, the arm party. So
It's the classic saying, I got beaten to the arm party.
we got
Beat me to the arm party.
again, classic Hugh. Okay, no, Rob Tennant from Abacus Visual sent us a box of arm party stickers that he designed, which is so exciting because we have also...
Whoa, they're big.
Really big.
They're huge.
There's a big one and a small one. There's a few different sizes.
Oh, there are too.
Yeah, and so I assumed that the big ones you could put on your, and they're big enough that you would see.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're not
that's
missing
true.
that.
Yeah.
Great stuff, Rob. Rob?
It's so good, Rob. Yeah, Rob.
Yeah,
Rob.
yeah.
Yeah. Robbie. Robert. Bobby. Whatever you want to, he's have lots of different, Tennant, Tenno, the Big 10, 10 out of 10, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, Rob Tennant is his actual name, though. But,
Bobby 10.
But let's go 10 out of 10. 10 out of Tennant. Maybe that's it. Yeah. Anyway, we got there. So these stickers look, I don't know what we're going to do with these, but we've got a whole box of these Let's Arm Party stickers. Maybe we can do something with them. But thank you very much to Rob Tennant.
Well, I'm putting one in my car, and I don't know.
One of these ones?
Yeah.
Not the ones that we're going to do.
Oh, that makes more sense, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, not that Rob's ones are bad, but like...
They're amazing. Rob's
yeah,
are amazing.
Rob's are
I love
great.
them. I absolutely love them.
And he's drawn as an arm coming out of a car, like an arm. I mean, it's got all the...
We'll
I
stick
mean, it's
'em up on
it is classic 10 out of 10. Like,
It
it's
is.
classic 10 out of 10. So, anyway, we will
One of the
keep you updated.
one of the ideas that Josh had, which I really liked, was having a small sticker you put next, inside the car. I mean, this is your idea,
yeah.
Josh, but I'm going to say it.
I can't-
Actually, why don't you say it?
I genuinely can't remember it.
Okay,
What was
well,
my idea?
your idea was
Was
inside...
it Josh's idea?
Yeah, could have been.
No, I reckon this is Josh had the idea of...
Just trying to think whose idea it
definitely
was.
Josh's. Josh had the idea.
I'd hate to go back through the messages.
This is my memory. Josh had the idea. We get a little sticker and you put it next to where it says your car's due for service in.
Yes.
Having one saying you're due for an arm party in.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it.
But just reminding you that you've got an arm party coming up.
Yeah, I think so. Put it next to your service sticker.
Well, maybe that's what he meant by these little ones.
Yeah, possibly.
Possibly, yeah.
Anyway,
Rob, we're on the same wavelength, and we're also doing them. So I don't know if we're now in competition, or I don't know what's happened here.
God, a rival. Although he technically did steal the idea, so we could sue him.
Good idea. We'll sue him.
I don't know if that's good optics for the.
So
for the
if you were
podcast.
driving your car and you saw someone with Rob stickers, would you be angry at them, or would you want an arm party with them?
Yeah, because it's a fake arm party.
It's an angry arm party. It's
Bootleg.
like a real shake your fist like.
Yeah, okay. Look, it's something for us to consider.
Rob, we love what you've done.
We love it.
And it's awesome. We're only joking. So
It's 10 out of 10.
yeah, it is 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Now, Hugh, do you have something?
I do have something. It's
God,
like
so formal.
it's show and tell, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't want to hold Trav off too much because it's an amazing interview. But two things. Number one, Ryan, on the 11th of every single month, you put out a video.
Yes.
It's not on any platform. It's not to make money. It's just because you've found it's like your purpose to help people, to spread joy with humor and creativity. And it's wonderful and it's so selfless. I do believe the last video you put out, called Wig, is quite possibly the funniest thing I've ever seen you do. It is.
Wow.
If you haven't watched it,
Thank you, mate.
you can go to Ryan's Instagram. He's posted it as a video, but you could also go to Ryan with 11 Ys.
Yeah.
.com. It's easy to remember.
Yeah.
Actually, it's easy to remember.
Ryan.com with 11 Ys, yeah.
Yeah, but it takes a while to type it in. Wig. You haven't watched it yet, Josh?
No, I haven't. No.
It's kind of in sync with your whole journey with this podcast almost, I feel.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And also there's elements of it actually which are in sync with what Travis Boak talks about
Totally.
in the interview.
Oh,
Yeah.
Totally. It's wonderful.
Thanks, mate.
So, yeah, please watch that if you get this. Well, just go and watch it. It's wonderful. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which is something I haven't had a chance to, I just keep forgetting to tell you both. It was so wonderful. As you know, when life went back to normal for about a month, I got to go and do some of my live shows around the country. And I was in Tassie.
Yeah.
Had a night in Hobart,
Yeah.
night in Launceston. Two of my favourite nights I've had doing this job. It was just wonderful. And when I finished the show, depending on how long I've gone to, there's a guy called Tom who's like, I don't know his official capacity is like roadie, or he's just my guy. Like he does everything for me. Like anything I need before or during or after the show is amazing.
Yeah. If you need something, he gets it.
Yeah, but it's like he drives me from the airport. He checks in the hotel stuff. He just does everything. He's my tour manager, I think you call it.
Shoelace needs doing up.
He would do it. I'd never ask him to do it, but he would.
Yeah. Arms are sore, need muesli being put in your mouth. He's there. He sounds great. So not a slave.
He is.
Not a slave, though.
He would do anything I ask. He's so good.
Do you pay him?
He is paid, yes.
not by you. Someone pays him to do everything.
Yeah, he's not doing it out of the love of the Resilience Project. He's a wonderful, wonderful man. I love Tom dearly. Yeah. And after the show, he always says to me, "Do you want to go out and chat to people who are out in the foyer, or do you want to just go back to the hotel, whatever, depending on how I feel?" Anyway, Hobart was such a wonderful night. He said,
sorry, I'm just imagining you saying, "Oh, look, I can't be bothered, Tom. Can you pretend to be me and go out?" Come on, Tom. Someone's paying you.
So Hobart was a great night. I said I'd love to go and chat to everyone. And there's a long queue of people. This guy's waited so long to get to the front of the queue. And he gets to the front of the queue and he kind of looked confused by everything. Like the night, why he was there, why he was queuing up. He just seemed so... Yeah. Anyway, he says to me, "G'day, Hugh." He would have been, I don't know, in his 50s. And he said, "I did like tonight, but what I wanted to tell you was I love your podcast. That's my favourite thing, the podcast." I said, "Oh, thanks for that. That's really nice."
Love this guy.
Yeah.
Sounds really good.
And he said, "My favourite though, no offence, is the DJ." And I said, "Oh, the DJ."
Oh, Christian.
And so I thought, I was like, "Oh, yes, Christian O'Connell." He goes, "Yeah, the guy's like, he's your DJ." And I said, "Oh, not my DJ, but yeah." And he goes, "No, I mean, who's the guy you host it with, the DJ?" And I went, I don't know, like, not a guest. He goes, no, he's your he's really funny for a DJ, like really funny. And I went, "Do you mean Ron?" He goes, "Yeah, Ryan. He's
DJ?
Yeah, because you're a DJ." And I said,
so
I sort of
cool.
jokingly said, "DJ Shelton." And he goes, yeah, DJ Shelton.
DJ Shelton. You play Chasers.
Yeah. And he said, I've never listened to his music. I'll give you honest. He's just hilarious.
Oh, you simply must. It's wonderful. It's so good. The way he crosses those beats from song to song is masterful. What a DJ.
So it was such a late night, and I couldn't be bothered saying
that he's not a DJ.
Yeah, so I just said, he said, "Where do I find his music?" And I said, I think Spotify.
Oh.
And he goes, "Yeah, I'll look him up. DJ, what is it?" I said, "DJ Shelton." He goes, I just picture this man at home going, "Right, DJ Shelton."
Oh, have you checked if there is a DJ Shelton?
I haven't.
I wonder why he would think that I'm a DJ.
I don't think we've ever even said the words DJ.
No.
Letters.
I haven't said the words DJ since Full House.
This was a while ago then.
She was a character on Full House. DJ.
Anyway.
Okay, we need to talk about Travis Boak because this interview, which you're about to hear, Travis Boak, if you follow footy, you know who Travis Boak is, plays for Port Adelaide. But Hugh, I didn't. I mean, you know him very well because you work with Port Adelaide. You have for a couple of years. But can you just explain to people who don't know how much of a freak footballer he is?
Yeah, he's amazing. He captained Port Adelaide for 2013 to 2018. He's a games record holder. He's played
for the club.
Yeah, he's played over 300 games for Port Adelaide. He was All-Australian in 2013, 2014, 2020. He's on track to do again this year. He's won the John Cahill Medal in 2000, which is the best Port Adelaide player, 2011, 2019, best and fairest there. Australian Representative Honours, International Rules Football in 2014, 2017. Victorian Representative Honours, State of Origin, all that kind of stuff. He's done it all. Showdown medalist 3 times, which is the game he played against Adelaide. He's 33 now, and he's still amongst the best players in the competition. It has been for ages.
Yeah.
But as I say throughout the interview, I mean, he's a pretty big man crush for me, so I tried to play it cool. But like, as a person, he's a better person than he is footballer. He's just amazing. I'll give an example of how good a person he is. So now through chatting at different sporting clubs, I've been to every NRL club and I think 11 of the AFL clubs now. I don't expect this from clubs I work with. Like, this has never happened before. I never expect this. But Travis will message me the day before I'm turning up to say, what time are you flying in? I'll come pick you up from the airport.
Oh,
Yeah. He comes to pick me up from the airport. Or,
Wow.
But I always go the night before because I have early sessions with him. So I say, what hotel are you staying in? I'll be there at whatever time. And we're talking like 6:30 in the morning. And I get a message without fail, 6 in the morning, coffee. Yeah, sounds good. He's always got a coffee waiting for me at the front of the hotel, like, and takes me to the club. I'm like, mate, I can get an Uber. That's fine. He's, no, I'll do. And then
and he's like, yeah. You don't have to mention it on the podcast if you don't want to, but if it comes up, obviously.
this can be public knowledge. It'll help.
This is great for the bio, but no pressure.
And then always, as soon as the session finishes, like whenever I'm finishing the club, straight away, I'll take you to the airport. No worries. Always drops me off. I don't want to rip Michael Voss off here. He's the other person who does it as well. I feel like he'd be listening going, I do that as well.
Yeah.
He does it as well. That's not normal. Like, I don't expect that. I don't, like, that's the kind of person that he is.
That's hospitality.
It is. With a capital.
Well,
I was going to say
capital
T.
H?
I was going to say T for Travis, but with a capital H, yes.
Hospitality. Well, let's have a listen to Travis, and obviously, as always, we'll be back after the interview and talk more.
Can I be a fascination?
Trav, thanks so much for joining us on our podcast, mate. I've wanted you to be on this podcast for so long, but there's a couple of reasons. The first one is, and the whole premise of our podcast is about, essentially it's about getting people to embrace their imperfections and to explore the ups and downs of their journey, to make sense of their life and the way they are. I don't think I've ever met anyone who lives and breathes that more than you do. So first of all, huge thanks for coming to the podcast. We're so excited to have you.
Mate, I'm stoked to be on. I've watched and listened from afar, and obviously we've worked together a little bit over the last couple of years, and I absolutely love what you're doing. So I'm really excited to be on and to have a chat and share some stories. It'll be good.
So people who follow football will know, and that you work so hard on the physical side of the game, and you're absolutely flying at age 32. Is that right?
33. I was 33 last week. So
happy birthday! There you go. Happy birthday.
33, mate.
And you're fitter and stronger than you've ever been before, and there's no signs of you slowing down. What I think a lot of people don't realise is that you have put a lot of work into yourself mentally and emotionally as well, which I just find so admirable. And a lot of that has been around exploring your journey. I'm keen to sort of work our way through your life in this chat, if that kind of makes sense. Would you be able to just start off by telling us about your childhood, favourite memories of childhood, what it was like growing up? I know you grew up in Torquay in Victoria. Yeah, maybe start there for us.
For sure. Yeah, look, I had a really good childhood. 2 sisters, mum, dad, just a pure sport family. Grew up down in Torquay in Victoria, so it's hard not to have a good childhood when you grow up in such a beautiful place like Torquay. Born into a mad Carlton family, sorry. So mum and dad were mad Carlton supporters. Dad played footy for Torquay, cricket for Torquay. Mum played netball for Torquay. So basically walked into the Torquay Footy Club back then as a young kid, just following dad, watching him play footy, watching him play cricket, and just kicking the footy in the backyard, as a kid growing up, like every day. Little Trav in the backyard with a full Australian kit on. I was probably like 3 or 4 years old. Dad was throwing balls to me. I just remember those moments in the backyard with Dad, growing up. It was just all sport growing up. It was great. And they were sort of some of my best memories. Enjoying those moments and helping Dad in the backyard. That was kind of, my childhood. And it wasn't until I was probably 14 when Dad got really sick. We found out. I remember it vividly. We're sitting in the lounge room, and Mum and Dad shared the news of what kind of rough details of what it was, and it was cancer. And at that stage we didn't really know what that meant. And
what kind of cancer was it?
so it was stomach cancer. There was some more detail to that I'm still unsure of, but I think it was in the stomach lining of which was really rare. And at that stage, we knew that Dad was going to go through chemo, and it was going to be a long battle. But once we sort of got older and once Dad passed away, we got more information of it all, that Dad was only given a few months to live. And, he battled it for 2 years, which looking back is incredible. And I think a lot of who I am today and the type of person and I guess athlete in a way has come from a lot of what I saw in Dad during that time, which was a whole lot of drive and kind of desperation to fight the battle of cancer, to stay around with his family. And I guess at the time you don't really see that or understand that. You sort of just, as a kid, you're just trying to help out as best you can and go to school and trying to live an everyday life. And then I'm starting to realise now that I got a lot of what I have now from Dad and certainly from Mum as well, who fought that sort of that same battle. And for her to still go to work, to get us ready for school, and to support Dad and do everything she could to try and help Dad survive, was just incredible, mate. And as kids, we can't thank Mum enough for that and what she did to keep us together, basically.
Were you aware, I hope this isn't too much of a hard question to answer, but were you aware in that couple of years that your dad was dying, or in your mind, was he just sick and he would get better?
I'm not sure if I was in denial or if I was just a young kid that was hopeful and oblivious to what it actually was. And like I say to this day that the hardest part of this wasn't actually the day Dad died. It was, the years leading up to when Dad died, and how sick he actually was. And for those people that have had someone go through cancer, or a parent, a friend, and I think nearly everyone in the world knows someone or has had someone go through it, which is horrible. And when they go through chemo, what it does to your body. And Dad started getting really skinny. Dad he had skinny legs, he had a nice beer belly, all that kind of stuff. But he started to lose a lot of weight and become really skinny, and you could tell that he was really unwell, and that's what hurt the most. And the constant ambulances rocking up, to take him to hospital because he was so unwell, that kind of stuff was the stuff that hurt the most. And I think the challenging part for us as kids was to try and be strong. And as much as I wanted to be strong, there was a part of me that just wanted to break down, I think, and I couldn't. And that was kind of the hardest part. And when Dad finally he went to hospital, and he was basically on life support for 2 weeks, and that was the hardest part of it all. He couldn't respond, he couldn't talk, and he was just lying there. And that was probably the worst 2 weeks of my life, sitting in that hospital and wanting to talk to him, wanting to have those last words and say I love you and thank you. And that was by far the hardest 2 weeks of my life. And once he actually passed away, I knew that I don't know, it was kind of hard to comprehend it all at that stage. And I probably I didn't for 8 to 10 years post Dad dying, until I started to address what was going on, and what it actually meant.
What was the I just want to go back to the hospital for a bit. If you're in there for 2 weeks, like both your sisters there, your mum's there, were you did you feel like you're in it together? Like, were you talking a lot to your sisters about it and your mum about it, or was it you're kind of in shock a bit at the same time?
I think there was definitely a lot of shock. I don't think my younger sister, Cassie, so she would have been quite young at that stage, and probably didn't understand a lot. And I think for me it was kind of, you're told to sort of just try and live your life as normal as you possibly can, and that's ridiculous because you can't. And you wanna have these conversations, but at the same time, I felt as a male that I needed to be strong. I needed to be, someone to try and keep my family together a little bit. And at that stage, I was still only 16, 17, and that was kind of what I felt I needed to do. So I wasn't dealing with any kind of real emotion, I don't think, until I realised this, 10 years later, that I just tried to numb it all out and block it all out, that I needed to operate as a strong male in that sort of period.
I totally understand that. When you were by yourself, though, again, I hope this isn't it sound like a stupid question, but if you're putting on a strong front in front of your family, when you were by yourself, though, did you allow yourself to cry in those moments, going to bed at night or whatever it was?
Never. Which is like I wanted to a lot. I wanted to cry. I wanted to feel pain, right? Because it was so painful. But for some reason, I just didn't do it, and I couldn't do it. And I think a part of me felt like that I wasn't allowed, and that was for a long time after. It wasn't just then. And I reckon I cried maybe once or twice, after Dad passed away. And but that's not saying I didn't want to. Like, I actually really, really wanted to, and I couldn't. And I didn't know why. Like, I just thought, I'd just get on with it and just be strong. It's happened, kind of thing. But the deep down in me was hurting a lot because Dad had just died. I lost, my best friend, basically, my mentor, my idol, and but it was kind of buried inside. And it wasn't until, probably maybe 2017, I started to talk about it a bit more, about what I actually felt, and once I started addressing it more, I started crying, and that started, letting a lot more out. And I don't reckon it was until probably 2019 where my whole perspective changed on it. And I don't reckon this would have happened if I didn't get to address those emotions and pain that I felt of losing Dad. And my whole perspective had changed from anger, frustration, anger at other kids who don't have good relationships with their dads or their parents, and how they would take it for granted, because I was like, like, my dad got taken away from me. He was never a bad person. He was an amazing human, never did drugs, never smoked, all that kind of stuff. And why did he get taken away from me? All this anger. And after I kind of, started speaking about my own pain of losing Dad, my perspective then started to change of, wow, how lucky was I to have the dad I had for 17 years to help me become the human I am today. And there's so many other kids out there that don't have a dad like that, or don't have a dad at all. And I think that's kind of, that changed so much for me. And now I see so many more beautiful memories of Dad. Like, you asked me at the start of what are my favourite memories. If you asked me that 10 years ago, I wouldn't have hardly been able to remember any of those with Dad. And now all I see is these beautiful memories, and those times that it were hard, I still see those, but I see them as, part of life, and they were difficult, and but now I see so many more beautiful memories of what I got to share with Dad, and those times that made my childhood amazing. And I'm so fortunate and so grateful to have a dad in my life that was able to help me for 17 years.
Do you? Thanks so much for sharing that. I feel. I mean, you and I have talked about this a bit before. I always feel really honoured to be able to hear your story like this. Do you? A little while ago, I went to a funeral. It was my friend's dad, and I was sitting there thinking, I don't know how I'm going to be able to. I'm so lucky. Like, I'm 41 now. My dad's still alive, and he's in his early 70s. Or Josh and my dad, I should say. Do you remember the funeral? But by any chance, do you have memories of the funeral? And was that extremely difficult?
It was very, very difficult. I think the whole morning leading up to it, was just so painful. Because that was the last time that I was going to, see Dad really, before he was cremated, and it was. I think the thing that hurt a lot was seeing how hurt Mum was, how hurt my sisters were as well. Hearing stories about Dad, made it quite difficult to be there and know that you're never going to see him again, and that is just a horrible thing. And for anyone who has to go through that, and everyone kind of eventually does, it's a horrible thing to experience. But the one thing now that I look back on from that day was the stories post the funeral, about Dad. So Dad played footy all over the country, just at local level. He was up in Darwin, up in Queensland, obviously played in Torquay. And they held the funeral at the Torquay Footy Club, and there was thousands of people there, and all shared stories about how good a person Dad was. And I think as hard as that day was, that sort of stuff was able to get me through, and has certainly helped me today, hearing the kind of person Dad was. And I think for me now, going forward with my life, part of Dad's still with me because I want to carry on the person that he was. And I knew that, he taught me so much. And if I can continue to fulfill, my life through some of the stuff that I learnt from Dad, he never leaves. And that's kind of how I've seen it. And it was amazing hearing some of the stories and the kind of person he was. He was just a kind, caring person. All from, people travelled all around Australia just to come to the funeral, and it was quite amazing to see that. So that the day was extremely difficult, but to hear those stories was something that that I'll remember forever, and it was so special.
What did he teach you?
To be a good person first, and I think, for me. And Mum exactly the same. Mum and Dad were just totally the same in terms of how caring, how kind, selfless they were. And it's all about, helping others, and that was kind of what they taught me. And it doesn't matter where you are in life, what you have, that we are all equal, and that's kind of what I've learnt from Mum and Dad. And I think, what I spoke about before in terms of what he went through, that battle with cancer, that ability to fight against, something that was totally against him and taking him down, and just the want for him to survive, to spend more time with his family, is something that I think, I learned a lot from Dad just from that battle. And whether it's in life or in footy, that, when the odds are against you, you've got a choice. And, eventually cancer caught up with Dad, but he did everything he could to fight through it. And I think, I've learned a lot with that, and I think I've taken a bit of that into my football career with, wanting to continue to improve and prove doubters wrong and prove me right kind of thing, and fight through different things. But and the same with life in general. I think, right now there's so many challenges going on in the world, and certainly in Australia and in Melbourne, lockdowns again, that so much against you. But, at the end of the day, we have a choice to go one of two ways, and I think that's what I've learned from Dad a lot, that there's something that you want, and there's something that you really care about. You can sort of fight through that to get to where you want to get to.
You and I, thanks again for sharing that. You and I can't remember when it was. I think we were having coffee in Melbourne once. I think it was around the State of Origin, that State of Origin game that was played maybe in 2019, and we had coffee, and we were chatting about, I can't remember how we got onto it. We often end up having quite deep conversations, but I think we were talking about shame and shame stories and how little things happen to us in our journey that bring us shame. And you were telling me a story, and again, it's only if you're comfortable sharing it now, about an incident that happened to you. At the time, we'd think it was like a reasonably innocuous incident, but had a pretty big impact on you for the next sort of 10 or 15 years of your life, about a trip in the car with your dad.
Yeah, so and this was one of a few, and stuck with me for a fair while, that created a lot of shame in my life, and the fact that I let Dad down and felt like I wasn't worthy because of this. And so Dad was quite sick at the time. It was probably about a year into his cancer battle, and we went out to Bunnings, and we were shopping, and we're in, it was Mum's car. It was a big four-wheel drive, and it was a manual, and at the time I was on my L's and still learning to drive, but I had Dad's car, which was an auto, which I was learning in, and I'd only ever driven the manual probably 2 or 3 times. But Dad drove out. We got some stuff from Bunnings, and we were about to leave the car park, and Dad started getting really sick, and he's like, I can't drive home, and I was just absolutely shitting myself, and I was like, Dad, I can't drive. And so he ended up, driving home really crook, and got home, and I just felt like the worst person in the world, that I just let Dad down because he asked me to do something when he was extremely sick. And I kind of failed, and I couldn't help him out. I let him down, and that kind of stuck with me for a long time, that I was a bad person. Dad needed me, and I wasn't there, and that hurt for a long time. And I thought that Dad would think bad of me because of that, and we never spoke about it after it or anything like that, but that sort of story stayed with me as a shame story for a long time, that I'm a bad person, and I let my dad down, and it wasn't long after that he passed away, and that's kind of all I remember. And it's kind of, you make up these stories, or maybe if I was better, maybe if I did more, maybe if I wasn't so vulnerable, and maybe if I was stronger, maybe if I just did something else, that he might have survived, or something better might have happened, So those kind of stories went through my head for a long time.
And it's how it works. I mean, we've discussed this before, but it's kind of how the shame works. Like I'm sure in that moment, your dad was probably like, yeah, fair enough. He's hardly ever driven a manual car before. I can't ask him to drive a manual. That's ridiculous. And for him, it's so small. But then for you, I remember years later, you were saying that it led to you, if ever you felt like you're letting someone down, like if you had an injury, if you weren't playing as well, it would lead you to feel quite anxious. And it was like this kind of throwback to that incident that happened in the car in the Bunnings car park so long ago.
Totally. And I think, even to this day, I think, when those sort of things come up, different stories from the past pop up and bring up more shame to sort of create this big spiral, really. And I think for a long time, when I felt like I was letting people down, that I was just a horrible person, and just whether it was in footy, whether it was people would ask me to do something, and even though I was completely exhausted, or I just had a huge week, or I hurt myself or whatever it was, and I literally couldn't do it, and I'd still feel like a horrible person and become this whole people pleasing thing. And trying to be perfect for everyone to basically gain approval, because you didn't want to let anyone down, because you thought that if I let someone down, I'm a bad person. and your whole worth was then attached to approval from other people. So you become basically live your life through trying to do everything for everyone else. And I think, you know, being kind and caring and doing things out of your own heart is completely different to people pleasing and doing things just to gain approval from others. And I think at times, you know, I just didn't want to let anyone down and had to do everything perfect. And I think that kind of, in a way, affected my captaincy in the end as well. You know, there was times where I was struggling to get out of bed in like 2017, 18 because, you know, we were losing games of footy, and I was the captain at the time. We were expected to win, and it was all my fault. That's how I kind of took it, and I was letting everyone down. It was a real struggle to come into the club because I couldn't face the boys because I wasn't playing the best footy I wanted to play, and I felt like that was why we were losing. It was all my fault. And those kind of things were there, and that's how I saw it based on how I kind of viewed the past and those stories, those shame stories that happened in the past. And that's kind of the belief that I had. If things were going bad in my world, it was my fault.
Funny, isn't it? Those little things happen throughout life that you don't realise at the time how significant they will be. And again, like, you know, I'm sure your dad was sitting there thinking, I'll ask him, but it's probably going to be a no because he's only driven a manual twice, and it's very hard to do. So, but then we build up a different side of the story, and we're so harsh on ourselves. But yeah, thanks for sharing that story, Josh. I know you can't see us because we've had to turn your video off so this call works. But I don't know if you had questions you wanted to ask Trevor as well.
I've got heaps, but I just didn't want to sound like the voice of God just coming in out of nowhere because you can't see me.
Where's his voice coming from?
Yeah, isn't it amazing to think, like, if you carry that shame with you for so long, yet if you, as an older guy now, asking your child to do that, you wouldn't be annoyed at them for a second. Like, it's so easy to take on the weight of the world as a child. And that's, I mean, you probably were physically big and you're probably bloody good at footy by that age and had all the appearances of an adult, but you really were just a child, weren't you?
No, exactly. And I think it's amazing how much we can let other people off or be so caring and compassionate to other people, but we find it so hard to do it for ourselves. And that's the kind of key to it all. You know, you would not treat other people the way we treat ourselves sometimes. It's just incredible. And certainly as young kids, we you know, we're just doing the best we can, what we know. And until we sort of realise that, it become quite a harsh story in a way that we tell ourselves. And that's kind of what it is changing that story of thinking we have to be perfect all the time and have all the answers and do everything right to, you know what, I'm just doing the best I can with what I know. And that's what it is like now as an adult, as a kid. That's just all we can do is the best we can.
I remember when I was about 20, I saw a psych, and I remember him asking me to write down the stuff I was telling myself and then read it. We were in a session and he was like, just start writing some of the stuff down that you say to yourself. And he was like, let's read it out. And it was so incredibly harsh. Yep. And he was like, you wouldn't, if you saw someone talking to a dog like that, you'd call animal services to make sure they couldn't look after the dog, yet you're happy to talk to yourself like that.
It's
shit. Yeah. But the other thing, you've sort of talked a little bit about it, the person you were and the person you are now, but I feel like I'd love to know what it was that made you or led to these revelations or this, like what happened? Because it sounds like you, as you said, you were not a happy camper when you were in the latter part of your captaincy there, and that was just a few years ago.
Yep. So
what has changed in your world, and what kind of things were going on that led to you to sort of reevaluate this trauma in your life?
Well, it was the end of 2018. The start of 2019, I reckon, was in summer. And I know you've had Crowie on this show.
Yeah.
And I caught up with him for a coffee. And
that's all it takes for him. That's all it takes. He just needs 30 minutes.
Just a coffee. And I mean, this was kind of like, so the captaincy, I just handed over the captaincy at the end of 2018. And so it all happened at once. And
This is Ben Crowe we're talking about. For those of you who don't know who Crowe is, Ben Crowe we're talking
yes. So it sort of just ended the captaincy, and that was kind of a bit of a weight off my shoulders in a way, but then it kind of led to this conversation. And I just remember, chatting with Crowe at the time, and he said, it's okay to be you. And for some reason, just then, bang, it clicked with me that, so I don't need to be anyone else. So I don't need to be this perfect human all the time who's always trying to control things to gain approval from everyone else, and try and have this mask on all the time to be this human that I thought I had to be. And all of a sudden I just started, letting go and stripping back a lot more. And it's still a journey to this day, I think. It doesn't end, but I think my beliefs are starting to change based on the fact that I'm starting to understand that it's okay to be me. And that person is completely imperfect, will make mistakes, and will find things very hard. And for me, it was more about then being able to delve into my emotions and feelings. And I think that was something, and for everyone, it's probably something that along the way that you thought you couldn't be or you couldn't do. And for me, I think during that time was burying those feelings when Dad was sick, and now that I'm sort of allowing myself to feel certain things and understand that it's okay to be me and show up and be the real me, even though at times it's going to hurt, it's going to suck, you're going to fail, you're gonna be hurt. It's like it's still okay, and that's kind of the journey that I'm on, and that's just through that change of belief of. It's not okay to be me, I need to be someone else, to now it's okay to be me. And I think that's kind of what changed it the most. And that was, the start of 2019, and I just started to enjoy life a lot more. Started to enjoy football a lot more, and just so happened to be that I started playing better footy at that stage as well. There was a lot of talk about, releasing the captaincy helped that. There's no doubt that some part of that helped. But what actually happened was I let go of control of trying to control outcomes, how people viewed me, if they'd like me or not, to just letting go. And I think that released a lot of tension, anxiety through my life and through my footy journey and footy career as well. And now I try to show up a lot more authentic than I would have in the past, because and I think it's a journey for everyone, right? Like every day, okay, I just want to show up as me. I don't want to put this mask on anymore. And whatever that may be that you're going through that you don't want to see, because it's going to hurt. It's that's the challenge that we kind of face, and that was kind of my journey from not being okay with who I am to starting to be okay with who I am. It's
incredibly liberating, isn't it, to have those? I mean, I fight with it every day, but when I can get in a good headspace of like, it's okay to be me, and it's okay to be. It's to not paraphrase the title of the show, but to all the little things that aren't good about me are fine as well. Like, it's a wonderfully liberating, and it opens up so many new doors. I'm surprised you were able to play any good football at all with your previous mindset. It's a miracle that you could.
Yeah, it was a grind.
Yeah. What about I'm fascinated by your relationship with your sisters and mum now. Do you think they've noticed a change in you?
Yeah, there's no doubt. Especially, my younger sister who's lived with me for the last 8 years. She's probably seen me relax a lot more. Where I think when in the past, my mask basically was the footballer, right? It was I needed to be this amazing footballer to gain approval and be liked, and I kind of that's where I lived in. So football followed me everywhere. It was at home, it was at the club, it was when I'm on holiday, it was everything. That's who I was. So it was constantly on, and you get to a game and you're just so exhausted. But I think that's probably what they've seen change the most is, when I'm at the club, I'll do everything I can to improve myself. But when I come home, it's just normal Trav. And, that's probably what they've seen the change of the most. And, you start to enjoy it a lot more because it's not who you are anymore. It's just what you do. And I think that's what's changed a lot for me. And I think, that's probably what my family's seen the most. And they've seen me enjoy my football a lot more because of it. And that's kind of, the challenge for everyone, where we think we're not enough. We have to be someone, or, we become the human doing, right? We everything we do becomes who we are. And that's just, it's a hard way to live. It's never enough. And that's the thing of it. And for me, that ball was, in a way, it probably helped me get to a certain point, and try and drive and be better. But it was just so exhausting that I didn't enjoy it. And then it come to a point where I just couldn't keep doing it, because it was just, in the end, mentally, just so taxing. And, once you identify with it, it's just constant. And being able to release that and just go do what I do and have fun, the rest of me came out, and I enjoyed it so much more. And it hasn't changed the fact that I still love trying to improve as a footballer, but I do it with a different purpose. I do it to try and be the best footballer I can be, not to do it to be the, gain approval from other people. If I do all this, they'll see me as this amazing footballer, and that's who I am. It's just doing it to see how far I can get in my football journey. And, wherever I end up, that's okay, because I'm still worthy. And that's kind of what's changed the most is the purpose behind it all.
I'm so moved by this. And you can't see any visual cues here, but this is, it's an amazing story.
So good. It is. Just that thing you're saying there, like I've heard you say this before, and it's so powerful for everyone to hear this in any walk of life. But for a long time, you attached your self-worth to how good you were at footy. And so you felt like it was your job to make your family happy by playing footy really well. But the second you realised that that's not what made them happy was how well you played football, it was the kind of person you are, it was so freeing for you. And I think that's no coincidence that all of a sudden your football went through the roof, when it wasn't like, well, if I play well, everyone's going to love me. If I play well, I'll make everyone happy. And if I don't play well, then people are going to be unhappy. And I think it's such an important message that we all, every single person in the world, I feel like, is trying to do something in order to win approval. But the second you realise that that's not what really counts, and you are such a great example of it. And the other thing I just absolutely love about you is how generous you've been in sharing this with the younger players at the club, the Connors and Zachs and Xaviers and all the, Mitch, all the younger guys. I mean, you would have loved so much to have been told this stuff when you were 18, 19, 20, right? You would have been so helpful. But you've actually, I suppose, a lot in the same way that your dad passed on this stuff to you, you're at the age 33 now, you are already passing this stuff on to the younger boys. And I absolutely love that about you.
Well, I think that's kind of part of the journey, right? It's, we don't self-discover, or we don't go on a journey for ourselves, just for ourselves. I think we do it to then help other people, other generations, our families, the rest of the world. Like, that's kind of what it is to support each other. And I think the more we can understand and love ourselves, the more we can help and love others and get others to love themselves. And I think that's kind of what I've started to learn. And certainly, definitely would have loved to have learned it earlier on. And I remember Mum saying to me at the, after that coffee with Crowy, she's like, I just wish you had known this 6 years ago. Like, we were telling you you're enough, and football is just what you do, and kind of thing. And I was like, well, I'd love to as well, but this is the time that I needed to learn it. This just happened at this time, and I think that's why it's happened, and now I get to experience it and share it. And now I think part of that is to help the other young guys at a younger age, because we've all got stories, we've all got some background along the way that's created this shame story along the way, and there's stuff out there in the world that'll distract us from being who we are. And I think the more we can keep learning about ourselves and loving ourselves, the more we can help others. And that's kind of what purpose is, in a way, I think. And, we've got some incredible young kids at the club that are amazing footballers and athletes, but secondly, they're amazing humans first. And the more that they can understand that they're, good people first, the better footballers they'll be for it as well. So we're grateful to have you at the footy club, Hugh, and certainly Vossi, who's led this in a great way to help our players understand that they can be who they are within the footy club. We've got 45, whatever it is, players that are individuals. We're all our own unique person, and we come together to fit within a culture of a football club through who we are as people. And if we can walk into those doors and feel comfortable enough to be who we are, then we'll be better as a footy club, and we'll have better performance, but we'll enjoy it along the way a lot more. And if I can kind of share my stuff along the way and we can all share our stories, then we'll be all better for it. There's just there's too much out there of people think that they need to be different to be worthy, and the more we can kind of help each other along this journey, then the better we'll all be.
Yeah, I feel unbelievably grateful to be part of the Port Adelaide Football Club, in that I went to so many clubs and visited so many different clubs and AFL and NRL, and it wasn't the plan to stay at one club and keep working with one club. And when Vossi suggested it, I was like, you know what? It's not convenient because it's in a different city, but I can't. But I was never I never thought about not doing it, because it's a group of people who are so curious about their journey and how to be a better person. And I think you and Michael Voss as well are a huge part of that and a huge reason for that. So I think, gosh, what you've done with your football is extraordinary. But I really think, more importantly, what you've done as a person to that place is so incredible. I feel like you should be very proud, and I know, my gosh, your dad would just be so unbelievably proud. Yesterday I was, Benji hasn't really, my son hasn't really gravitated towards sport at all yet, but he picked up a football and kicked it the other day, and he kicked it so far over my head. I was like, I can't tell you how proud I was. Not because he was playing sport, but I guess it is because he's playing sport. But yeah. I feel I was so proud of him. And then I just think, my gosh, all that you have achieved as a footballer and then as a person, your dad would just be so unbelievably proud. But I'll leave that to your mum to talk to you about. She'd be much better equipped for me to tell you how proud he would have been. But I don't know.
Can I say that there's something incredibly beautiful and poetic that you started this interview telling us about how your dad was, how important it was to your dad to be a good person first, and that for so long you were unable to remember that fact because of this trauma, and now you've because of the work you've done and the processes you've been through, you're now able to enact exactly the lessons that your dad were telling you as a kid to the rest of the guys at Port Adelaide and people in your life. There's something just really very touching and poetic and wonderful, and it's what a gift to be able to do that from such a young age, really. I think, like, when you think about people deal with shit and trauma and they don't deal with it properly and they spend the rest of their lives trapped by it, to get to this point at 33 as of a couple of days ago, it's what a gift.
Yeah, and it's a scary thing to go through, isn't it? Like those stories, to really delve into what story you did create. And you spoke about journaling before, and we've done some stuff certainly at the footy club to write a letter to our younger selves, and how big an impact that has too, because it's kind of like, and it might sound quite weird, but that inner child that's still in you, that has all those stories and those shame stories, and by writing a letter to that person can make a huge difference. And we've done that as a footy club. I've done that before, and you talk about how hard you talk to yourself. Well, once you sit down and write a letter to your younger self, it just starts to change, I think. And those fears those stories start to change. And you kind of get what, as a kid, you get what you needed. through yourself, just from writing that journal and that story.
I've been very lucky to hear quite a few of those stories, and it's for everyone who wants to know more about that, it's just very simply writing a letter to your 12-year-old self with the knowledge you have now, basically, about life, and it's a lovely thing to do. Josh, did you have more, or?
No, I'm suitably moved and all out of questions.
Yeah, I feel the same, Trav.
Mate, I could talk for hours. It's always great having a chat.
Yeah, well,
You're due to come to Adelaide.
Yeah, you've got so much on with football right now, and you're also with you. In fact, before we let you go, I'd love just for you to tell us about the label that you have come up with in honour of your dad. Talk about purpose, like you've Rogers Underwear. Is that right?
Yeah, Rogers Underwear. So basically, it's kind of a collection of the business is based on values that sort of Dad has created, and obviously after his name, but then also my love for fashion, and it's something that I've always loved outside of footy, and to then create it and hopefully go forward with this post footy is something I really love, and hopefully it's more than just clothing going forward. But we started with undies, and they're quite comfortable. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's a funny story. I didn't realise until probably a year into this the journey with Rogers that in year 10 I created my business exam was we had to create a company, and I created an underwear company in year 10. And I completely forgot about it. And so it was just meant to happen. It was meant to be. So I need to go back on those books and figure out what I actually did, because I got no idea what I'm doing at the moment. But it's all part of the journey.
Trav, we are so grateful that you have made time for us today and have been so generous in sharing what must be a hard story to tell, but I have no doubt it will help many. As Josh said, I feel very moved by everything you've said today, and we always go back and listen to these interviews to work out how we can then put them into an episode, and I cannot wait to listen to this again. You've just been so beautifully generous. So thank you so much. Good luck for the rest of the season. Port are doing beautifully at the moment, and I look forward to watching you boys succeed in the finals. So thank you, mate, and I just want to say it again, your dad would be so proud.
Pleasure. It was great to come on and have a chat, and hope everyone out there is going okay at the moment, because obviously quite a challenging time all over Australia, and thinking of everyone certainly back home in Melbourne where I'm from, but certainly all over Australia, and there's some tough times, and I guess all we can do is look after each other and help each other. But loved coming on and having a chat. It's love what you're doing. Keep doing your thing.
Thanks, Trav.
Can I be a fascination moment? 'Cause you hold the feeling in the moment. But you want the beat, I need the tone.
Wow, well, I would have been happy with him just saying what were his top 5 speckies of all time, but that was another level. That was amazing. Wow. Travis Boak.
Did you enjoy, Josh? Just what people won't know is that with the Zoom set up to make it as clear as possible, Josh was there, but his face wasn't there. We didn't have a video of him. So whenever he started talking, Travis would look up quickly. Like, where's that come from?
Yeah.
I thought it was presumptuous, Josh, for you to say that you were the voice of God. But
This question asking business has really gone to my head.
It's a healthy self-esteem. The voice of God. It only took a few eps. I'm now the voice of God. Just FYI, guys. Let's change the podcast blurb in the show notes.
Just call me Vogue.
Hugh, Ryan, and Vogue.
Not Vogue Van Gogh.
No, I was just worried that it was really hard to, I wanted to ask questions. It was really hard to interject because he couldn't see me. He could see Hugh, and then he just would have had this other voice in his ears.
Oh, no, there's no better way to get attention than to say you're the voice of God. Hey, guys, voice of God here. Oh, shit. All right. Better listen up.
Well, we had the screen up on Zoom, but then we also had FaceTime going just so we could see each other if something dropped out. So I couldn't. So Josh messaged me during the interview and said, "Do you want me to ask a question?" And it popped up, and I was trying to listen to Trav's answer, but right back, yes, any point you want. It was too difficult. So I was like, I don't know when Josh is going to turn up here. But you did it was a very good, excellent questions again. And You're getting very good at this.
It's not going to my head. Don't worry about that.
You sure, God?
You're getting a little bit worried. You're getting very good, which is great. I'm happy for you. Obviously, I'm the host, but you keep doing your questions. Just know your place, God. Know your place.
We don't need to see you. But he. I mean, there's a lot to unpack in that interview, and I am worried that what Travis spoke about. You could almost tell at the start that he has told that story a few times before. You know, he's able to tell the story of his dad's passing, which I think is a very brave thing. But as we got further into it, we started to talk about the impact of his, the story of his dad passing. He's able to talk about, but then the impact of it, you could tell was a bit more difficult and a bit more raw. Because the things he was talking about were really hard. There was stuff. I mean, we were delving into shame, which we talked about in your episode, Ryan, but we only sort of touched on it. I don't know if that's a helpful thing for us to talk about here, or there was other things around his, understanding his journey, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I mean, massively. I mean, it resonated with me in a huge way, and clearly with you, Josh, as well. But the thing that I really loved what he said was when he shifted his perspective, like when he learnt how to shift his perspective and how to actually look at it. When I learnt that was a huge thing for me as well. And I still really struggle with actually being able to put it into practice. It's still like knowing it is one thing, but doing it is a whole other story. But shifting of perspective, where it's like you can't actually change what's happened in the past. You can't change the events of your past, but you can shift your perspective and how it affects you and what it means. And I think that was really, really great. And like you said, incredible that he can now talk to the younger players about that and sort of share that with them, because I think everyone can probably, I'll just talk about myself. It's like I can certainly relate to attaching myself, like I said in my episode, attaching myself to what I do. And the reason for that is, and I talked about this just a little bit in my episode, but not really. The shame that I talked about was, that I wasn't worthy and wasn't good enough. The thing that I've sort of thought about a lot more since then is that the story actually goes back, I think, a little bit further to, because, mum and dad, when I was a teenager and I wanted to be an actor, they quite understandably and quite rightly, I probably would do the same thing, was that they were giving me a realistic view of what's ahead. It's like the chances of someone making it as an actor or as a professional footballer in Travis's case is very slim. And so it feels like the right thing for I can understand why my parents were like, just to let you know, like not many people really make it. So maybe you should have a backup career. But I just since my episode in the last year or so, especially after Trav just spoke about it, I reckon that's a big part of the shame story that I've told myself, that I'm not good enough because no one can make it and I should have a backup story. I'm not really explaining it well, but essentially,
no, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you're saying. It's
the thing that you're told in that really formative part of your life when you're looking to your parents, as I still do now at 39, for validation of like, are you good enough, and is what you do great? And in those early years, it's not like they were telling me I was not good. They were telling me, they were very supportive, but understandably, I don't think they really believed that I could make it. And I just wonder whether that sort of rubbed off a little bit on me, and sort of I believed that to be true. And then for a long, long time, I thought, well, I want to do it, but I probably don't think I can. Anyway, so I think that's what really resonated with me with what Travis said. But attaching yourself to what you do and only feeling worthy and good about yourself if you're doing well at what you do is a pretty common thing, I would say.
Yeah, I think we all do it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But how amazing for him though that he's shifted his perspective and bloody Ben Crow again. Hey, God,
Magic.
All he needs 30 minutes.
Yeah.
He just needs 30 minutes with you.
Did he get a jumper grab?
I don't know.
Should have asked him. That would be good to know.
I know they caught
Yeah.
up down the surf coast, and they're both prolific surfers. So maybe it was in the surf.
Oh,
I don't know.
that is beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like screaming above the sound of the waves.
Yeah.
Like, you are worthy.
That's all he needs is 30 minutes, isn't it?
He's a magician.
He's a magician.
Absolute magician.
On that, not to negate that at all, but I think one of the things that I found interesting you were talking about the shift of perspective, is we didn't really go into the detail of it, and maybe you want to talk about this, but I thought it was really a real key of something that Travis did was that he did the work to change his perspective.
Yeah, totally.
Like he put in, it sounds like he went to a psychologist quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I know that it took me 10 years of going to a psych for my perspective to shift, and it sort of all had to align with other life events, and it took a very long time to get to a point where I was able to shift perspective on things that from my childhood and along the way. But I think it's really worth mentioning the work that he put in, and that it is work, and it's not a surprise that someone as good at football as him is able to do the hard work. But I think it's something for people to know out there that if you put in the work, and the work is going to see someone talking through it with a professional, you really can have, world-altering shifts in perspective.
It's a different type of work though, isn't it, than
Yeah.
like training for footy? Because like if you work hard to be a good footy player and then play well and kick goals,
Yeah.
then people are going to go like, you're great.
Mm.
Whereas now it's to get to where he is now, where you're picking up people from airports. It's a different type of sort of like great goal. Like it's a great game.
Yeah.
But it's a different type of work to do that, because you don't often get as much praise
Yeah.
from being a good person.
And I think the end result is it's such an unknown. Like you don't know what kind of person you could become at the end of all of it. Whereas with putting in the work to become a better runner or a guitar player or whatever it is, there's a goal that you can set that I'm going to run a marathon, or I'm going to play that song, or I'm going to do this thing. Whereas putting in the work to better yourself in that way, you have no idea. But that's the exciting thing, that you don't know how much you can thrive if you put in the work.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? It's like all these things that we like, me, wanting to be like win an Emmy or whatever the best version of what I could do is. That's such a clear thing that you can point to, and that people can go like, gee, great job. You're obviously really good at what you do. And then you translate that as you're really good as a person. But we know for a fact that doesn't actually work. That doesn't actually make you happy. We know for a fact that what makes you happy is doing good things for other people and being a good person, and that other people matter. We know all this through like research and data and stuff, but it's still so hard for us to put in the work to get to a place, because it's not the same level of praise as you get if you win a Brownlow or win a premiership.
And the reason he's able to do all this, and I've always been struck by how humble and curious he is. And I'm always surprised when people like that, who are well recognised as the best in the world at what he does, and his face is possibly the best face in the world I've ever seen. So like everything's just so great. You kind of expect him to have a little bit of a, not arrogance or anything, but just like, I'm going pretty well. Like I know stuff.
Yeah.
I don't need to change much. Life's pretty good.
Totally.
I just I don't want us to go on too long here, but I do think we need to just, such a significant part of the interview for mine, and knowing his journey, was the story about going to Bunnings, where his dad couldn't drive. He asked Travis to drive. Travis said, I'm too scared to, basically, and he didn't. And his dad passes away not too long after that. And then for 10 years, he felt like he let his dad down, and this grew into, he didn't talk to his dad about it, he didn't talk to anyone about it, and the story grew into, for him, it was like whenever felt like he was letting someone down, which if he wasn't playing football well, he felt like that was letting his family down, because he thought that's what people loved about him, being good at football, so he'd get really anxious. And then even a couple of years ago when he was injured with his shoulder, he felt like he couldn't play properly and he's letting his teammates down. That made him really anxious. But as soon as he started talking, as soon as he started telling that story, and that wasn't to a psychologist, that was just to friends of his and people he's close to, all of a sudden the shame that he felt couldn't survive the empathy that he got. And people reality checked it for him. It was like, it was empathy, but it was reality checking. People were going, you wouldn't have let your dad down. That's not letting your dad down. And then when he And he said it out loud and heard people say, that's ridiculous. He's like, no, do you know what? That wasn't letting Dad down. And even if he was disappointed, that doesn't mean that I then have to go making every other person happy all the time. But so it was a great example of how sharing your shame, as Brené Brown says, speak shame. It cannot survive empathy and support. So, but then again, it can also be hard to go, right, what are the stories in my life that are, and that's why speaking to a professional is really helpful. It doesn't have to be professional. One of the best conversations I had about shame was after 37 pints after the Boxing Day test with one of my best mates, crying into a chicken kebab.
Well to remember it.
Yeah, but I remember I'd never told you on this thing about just how I felt like when Georgia was young, I sort of abandoned her as an 18, 19-year-old because I wanted to go. And then with this long conversation, I'd had so many beers. It did the trick. Like I was just telling him over beers what I'd told my best mate. And he was
so as just advice for people then, 37 pints.
Psychologist, counsellor, or 37
pints and a chicken kebab.
Yeah, or a Ben Crow.
Or a quote, Hugh Van Cuylenburg, the Resilience Project.
If you could get them all together for one session, who knows what would happen.
God, that's a party, isn't it?
But anyway, we are so grateful that Trav was so generous. And it's the time of the season where it's starting to heat up a lot and there's a lot on his plate. So we're very grateful.
Thanks, Travis.
To Trav. So, yes.
Well,
classic Imperfects finish to an episode.
Classic.
So,
well,
yes.
let's say that the outro music sort of started, so people are like going, "Oh, okay, it's wrapping up," and they're just trying to.
Do you guys love the song?
Love
yeah,
the song.
Isn't it a beauty?
It's amazing.
By No Mono.
Yeah,
it's just great.
Keep On, which is such an apt title. Keep On.
Yeah.
It is,
especially at the moment.
Maybe why we chose it.
Yeah, probably is.
All those years ago. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back in a couple of weeks for another episode.
Can I be a fascination moment? 'Cause you hold the feeling in the room. But you want the beat, I need the
Hugh, it's Ryan. Hey, great interview with Travis. That was so good. Thank you for that. But you didn't actually mention anything to me about that voicemail I left you before about me misremembering myself as Tony Lockett. So I just wanted to just call and clarify that I'm not Tony Lockett. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. But I did play footy actually as a kid, not as a full forward. I was more of a utility player. I played on the wing, forward flank, bit of a goal sneak, I think you'd probably call me. There was actually this one time where ball got kicked into the forward line and hit the ground, and I swooped past, picked it up with one hand, and from the boundary line put it on my left foot and snapped it through the big sticks, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's the best goal I've ever seen in my life." Anyway, I won best on ground, and yeah, everyone was like, "Definitely come back next week. You're a great young player." Anyway, I'm rambling. I'll let you go, but I just wanted to clarify all that, and I'm looking forward to next episode. It's Ryan Shelton, by the way, not Plugger. Anyway, from the podcast.
To call back, press 2-2. To replay message, press 1. To reply.
Can I be a fascination moment? 'Cause you hold the feeling in the room. But you want the beat, I need the jam. Holding the pieces that just falling. Stay at your door, I feel that cool.
If this episode has triggered anything for you around mental health, we strongly recommend Lifeline on 131114. The Imperfects is brought to you by the Resilience Project, produced by Ryan Shelton, Josh and Hugh Van Cuylenburg.